yoga aspect of yourself that is.
Oh, sorry, Ismael. Actually, you're cutting out a little bit.
Hear me now?
I can hear you now, yeah, but it was breaking up just a little bit.
Is it still breaking up?
No, now it's fine. You know, it's funny. I think we always end up doing these lives on Mercury retrograde. I don't know why we always choose to do it on these times, but.
So overall,
Sorry, it's still starting to break up again.
let me go get my earpiece. 1 second.
Okay, sounds good. You want me to restart the live?
No, we can just keep it going.
All right, cool. Sweet. Thank you guys for coming in and being so patient. As you guys know, it's Mercury retrograde, so there's going to be some technology issues, but we're going to get it going, and this is going to be a good call. What's up, guys? Hey, Illegal. Nice to see you. Too much.
Right. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you good, yeah. All right, let's get another shot.
The magic of earpieces, right?
All right, so tell us, how is it that you know what you know?
Very simple. I'm very in tune with my spirit. I'm very in tune with other aspects of myself that exist in higher dimensions. And so because I've been incorporating Kriya Kundalini Yoga since the age of 21, I've been able to, access those aspects of myself through the opening up of the chakras, to the raising of the Kundalini energy. And that's how I've been doing it. But also, in addition to my downloads, my friend, I've read thousands of books, like thousands of books. I've done so much research. And then also having a photographic memory and being able to read fast kind of helps. I could read a 300-page book in like 2 days. So all of that is I guess, one of my many talents as to how I was able to gather so much wealth of information over the years.
That's wild because, the idea that somebody can just, do the yoga and the power in that actually, my friend actually who I work with here, he's an expert in Kundalini yoga and he's one of the most spiritually connected people I know. So would that be something you recommend for people to do Kundalini yoga?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kundalini yoga is probably one of the most advanced forms of meditation as far as clearing up your chakras, activating your chakras, aligning your chakras. Because the more we do that with our chakras, the more we access our light body. And really all that wealth of information, we all have access to this information. I'm not nobody special. Every single one of us has access to the Akashic records. The only difference is, are you willing to put the work? Are you willing to do the meditations? Are you willing to, reach those higher levels of consciousness so that you could begin to access your own memories and your own past life experiences? And so anybody could do that.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, everybody has many lifetimes. Everybody has their own history to share with the world. Every single person in this, on this planet has their own history. Especially the starseeds. Just trying to balance my phone here. There you go.
Amazing. Yeah, I've heard lots of good things about it. Now, is there a way to know that you've had a Kundalini awakening? Is it kind of like, when people say like when you break a bone, like if you're not sure if you broke that bone or not, then you probably didn't break the bone, right? Like, do you just know when you have this awakening, or is it subtle? How do you know?
You begin to perceive everything differently than most humans. Yeah, you begin to see things and understand things on a whole new different level. At that point, it's almost like we're a part of this world, but we're really not from this world. And then that's when you begin to realize that you are an extraterrestrial, that you are an angel in human form, a celestial. And I came to that realization years ago. That I was, living among mortals, but I also knew that I wasn't the only one. I knew that there was millions of me out there, and here we are, gathering the tribe through social media.
Yeah, it's wild, man. I think I don't know if it was the guy that invented Kundalini. It's probably been around for a long time, but I know there was a guy that popularized it in America, and he went to Woodstock trying to explain to people that you don't need all these drugs. You do Kundalini yoga and you'll have the best high of your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's how it works. All those hormones that are released when people do DMT or ashwagandha or peyote or even acid, is all naturally triggered by the raising of the Kundalini energy and the activation of the chakras.
Amazing. Now, so other than your book, Our Cosmic Origin, which if you guys haven't checked it out, just go on Amazon and type in Our Cosmic Origin for Ismael Perez. You'll see it there. Other than yourself and your book, what are some other like reliable sources of information that we can go to and trust to help us understand galactic life better? Like maybe what are some of the books that you really have clinged to over the years?
There is this book by J.J. Hortak called The Keys of Enoch, the Book of Knowledge. Very, very, the information is dense. Not everyone could understand it, but it really ties everything together. It doesn't really go into detail about the galactic history, but it does it in a very advanced metaphysical and scientific explanation about the different, civilizations, the Brotherhood of the Light and the Brotherhood of Man. It talks about the different chemical compositions of the different specimens, the atoma. It goes into detail. That's why it's called the Book of Knowledge. So that's a very hot resource for high level information. But again, not everybody could understand that book. I had to actually read that book 3 times to finally decipher or decode the message in that book. It is so freaking profound. I mean, it's rare. It's an expensive book. It's probably about $150 or $200 now, but it is worth the read. Okay. Yeah, another book is the Janihian script, or the Winds of Truth. That's a rare manuscript, but it talks about the 12 major universes. And I don't really see anybody else talking about the 12 different universes or the 12 major creations, which is what I talk about in my book as well.
I've seen you talk about this a few times.
Yeah. So there's not many books out there that really give you this higher level information. But so what I did in my book is I just put, I gathered all this information, including getting information from advanced, resources like classified information through remote viewing. And this is something that was actually developed in me or genetically built in me when I was part of the secret space program. So I still remembered how to remote view. So I was able to actually access some of the most highly classified information. When the disclosure takes place, this is all going to be common knowledge. Yeah, everything that I'm talking about is going to be common knowledge. So I'm just giving people like first dibs and disclosure, by releasing my book.
Now, do you think like there's a way that we can go about disclosure that's really going to hit people? I saw a picture the other day, and it said there was actual that was a cartoon, but there was actual aliens or extraterrestrials in the sky, and a bunch of people were like, "Oh, it's a CGI," "Oh, it's a false flag." No one believed that it was actual extraterrestrials. Do you think that there's going to be a moment where we can actually have full disclosure, where there will be a mass consciousness across the earth where everyone's going to know, okay, this is real?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's coming, and it's coming really quick.
And what do you think is going to spur that?
I think there's going to be massive sightings worldwide to the point where it's going to be very hard for the governments to contain it. Once millions of people witness the motherships that are already here parked in our atmosphere, by the way, our atmosphere is it's a hot parking lot for many motherships. Once millions of people start witnessing these motherships, it's just going to be inevitable, And also another thing that's going to cause the disclosure is the genetic mutation that is taking place as I speak. When the star seeds rise or emerge as the next stage of human evolution with X-Men superhuman powers, how are you going to be able to suppress that? People are going to be teleporting. People are going to be flying. People are going to be moving things with their mind. It's coming. It's going to change everything. Yeah, it's going to change everything.
Good luck trying to ignore that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So we got a couple big things that we need to talk about right now, because I know there was a lot of concerns lately over a couple things. So let's talk about the first one. You've been mentioning a lot about Enki and Enlil. Can you tell us a little bit about who they are?
Okay, so basically everything that we know about the ancient Anunnaki, or what we call the Iberians to be technical, has been inverted. Sakurai Sitchin has been exposed to be aligned with the Cabal by Arizona Wilder, who was used as a sex slave, and then she, I guess, was rescued back in the late 90s, and she was able to share some of her information with David Icke and others. And in that discussion, she talked about how Sakurai Sitchin was very involved in the Bohemian Grove. He was part of the Trilateral Commission and so on and so forth. So he was very aligned about. And it's so funny because he's the only linguistic scholar that was able to translate those tablets. Like, if there wasn't anybody else that could actually translate them. It's funny how they only appointed it to just one person, right? No other scholar had access to even attempt to translate the ancient Sumerian tablets. So what it boils down to, Bo, is that we've been lied to. Everything's been inverted. So even within the disclosure community, people are pushing because of the Sakurai Sitchin translations and the book of Enki that he also translated. Many people, I say about 80% or 85% of the truthers out there, or whistleblowers, whatever you want to call them, they're all saying that Enki was the good guy, that he was our genetic progenitor, that he made us, and that wasn't the case. It was actually the other way around. Now, if you want to understand the galactic history of the Anunnaki, let's go back to Sirius, millions and millions of years ago. The original Anunnaki was developed by the Syrian High Council as an effort to create the most powerful warring species. And what they did is they mixed the genetics of the Lyran feline royalty that came from Lyra with an advanced etheric race that operated from the center of the galaxy to create this advanced super race. And that's how the original Anunnaki was developed. It was part of the coming together of the royal house of Sirius with Lyra. And so that's why they are called the galactic royal bloodline. And so the original Anunnaki was known as the Anuhasi. And so we could say that the original Anunnaki were actually working with the light, but there was an infiltration that took place, about a little over 500,000 years ago when Dramin, seduced Anu, because Anu was the commander during those days. And Anu, by the way, comes from the direct bloodline of the Lyran king and the Syrian king, or queen rather, because remember there was an alliance between Sirius and Lyra to create this new powerful bloodline. And so what happened was the Draco decided to infiltrate the Nibirians by having Dramin seduce Anu when he was drunk into having a child with her, and then that's how Enki was born. So Enki was pretty much the infiltration. And when we look at history and we even study mythology, we hear about these monstrous looking creatures, these hybrids that existed during the times of Atlantis, that were not necessarily, humans, that were something else.
Yeah,
well, that all happened. Say that again?
See a lot of these giants.
Yeah, the giants and all that stuff. Yeah, that was all done by Enki, by the way. The Nephilim. The reason they were called the Nephilim was because they were actually known as the Igigi. And they were located in the Mars colony back in those days. And they were under the direction of Enki. And they were forbidden by the order of the Council of Sirius to, integrate or to have intercourse with the women of Earth. And so they broke that oath, and they decided to have kids with, the women on the Earth in order to corrupt the original bloodline of Adam. And so that's what gave us the giants and all these other hideous looking creatures that were eventually wiped out during the flood and other cataclysms. By the way, everything happens for a reason. Again, everything's been inverted. History is not what it seems to be. So Enki was also the guy who was in charge of all the abominations. And what I mean by abominations is that he was conducting some uncontrollable genetic experiments that we have recently been actually doing again within the private sector, in the shadow government and stuff. But he was the one that started that in Atlantis. And so, all these different specimens that he created were a mixture of humans with animals and different alien groups. And to God, that was an abomination. Right. So he was known as the abomination of desolation. And then meanwhile,
I've actually heard of this before where that was like, you see things like a cyclops or centaurs and, things like that, where it's like a mixture of like a horse and a human. Like, we look at them now as mythology, but a lot of the books that I'm reading on this now are saying that actually could have been a very real thing. And it sounds like what you were saying, right? Like that this Enki character was the source of this.
Correct. Yeah, he was. He's the one who created the Cyclops, the 100-arm man, which were a bunch of giants that fed off of humans. And when we look at the Greek version of who Enlil was, he was Zeus. He was the chief of the pantheon of the Olympians. And through his lineage, we had the heroes of old. So heroes did exist in ancient times, and they were of the descendancy of Zeus. Perseus, Theseus, Hercules, they were all real. And they were very instrumental in the defeat of all these genetic experiments that were done by Enki in order to preserve and save the human race. And now we're living in a time where new heroes are going to emerge through the descendants of Enlil. Now, what ended up happening to Enki, all right, after he left his son Marduk in charge of the Dark Brotherhood, right, when he infiltrated Atlantis and he took over through Babylon, Marduk was Belial Baal, right, Satan, whatever you want to call him. He went off to different parts of the galaxy and he started creating loosh farms with other systems. And so to the Galactics, for the last 5,000 years, Enki has been doing that. And so he was recently kicked off about, I think 1,000 years ago. He was actually escorted out of our galaxy. But unfortunately, he recently returned within the last 10 months, and man, he is up to no good. Now he's not even a biological specimen. He decided to integrate with technology, so he upgraded himself by becoming a cyborg. And so he represents that part of the Luciferian Brotherhood we call the embodiment of the Antichrist.
And I've been hearing a lot of stuff recently about like the coming of that, which is interesting. Now you talked about the original like humanoid Adam. What makes him that way? What makes that original bloodline special, I guess, or unique?
Because it was uncorrupted and undiluted. It was a perfect angelic, it was the original angelic human species, our ancestors that were developed during the times of Lemuria. And, we could trace our origin to them. And they were part of the completion of this intergalactic experiment that's been going on for billions of years with the admixing and intermixing of different genetics from across the multiverse. So the Anunnaki were also part of that experiment, by the way, as to why they were powerful in their time. But the Anunnaki failed to inherit the God source gene, but we did. So that's why we are going to be more powerful than them once we activate. And it's even been revealed in the ancient manuscripts, before their translations, right? According to the real oracles, it talked about how, there was going to come a time where the gods and the goddesses would return to the earth, but it didn't say from the sky. It didn't say that at all. It said that they would emerge from the already existing Homo sapiens sapiens, which is awesome. In other words, they were trying to, indicate that there would be some sort of genetic mutation that would allow for this new breed to emerge as the next stage of human evolution.
So I have a question for you about this, because when I think about extraterrestrials, I tend to think about them in like not necessarily just the physical form like we see it, but there's some of them that are energy beings. There are some of them that are interdimensional beings, so we may not even be able to perceive them in this dimension. What dimension and planet or planet is Enlil and Enki be from, and how is it possible that they were able to integrate their DNA into ours? Are they quite similar genetically in terms of like a humanoid? Like, what are they exactly?
Okay, well, Enlil is a pure-blooded Lyran Syrian Pleiadian, because his mother Antu was the queen of Alcyone. So that's why Enlil was also in charge of the entire system that we belong to, which is a system of the Pleiades, of 52 different solar systems with the 7 major sisters. So Enlil. So Enlil he brought the complete galactic humanoid royal gene to the earth. So that's what he was. Enki, on the other hand, was through his father Anu, he was part Syrian Lyran, but through his mother, he was complete Draco. So he was half and half. However, his son Marduk, because Enki did have a son with Damkina, who also came from the galactic royal house of the Siakar, which, is the Draco, then, you had Marduk. So Marduk is, you could say, he's 75% Draconian and only 25% angelic Lyran Syrian. But yeah, if physical-wise, we look exactly, or actually, according to the book of Genesis, they made us in their image, right? So we're all this, we all look the same, except Enki. Enki looks more like he shapeshifts, sometimes he looks amphibian, right? He could also adapt to live in the oceans, right? Well, that explains his version of Poseidon, right? Well, he was the Greek translation of Poseidon. Enki is Samuel Poseidon. Zeus was Enlil, Jehovah, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it. And so Enki looks totally different than humanoid. Yeah, sometimes he could look like a dragon, and then sometimes he could shapeshift back because he's 50-50. However, Enlil Zeus has the ability to change and transform into an eagle. You know, if you read mythology, there was various times where he would, change his appearance into an eagle, and then he would descend and he would impregnate one of the queens, and then he would ascend afterwards. But that was done because he was a seeder. He needed to proliferate his genetics. Otherwise, the heroes of old wouldn't have existed, right? That's what gave birth to the demigods.
I was just thinking about this. How would I know? How would I know that? I don't live beside an Anunnaki something, and then to hear you say, well, it might just be a bird, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But can you imagine though, as a woman, bird flies down, and all of a sudden you're pregnant with the next Jesus or something like that, that's an unfortunate situation.
Well, that was how Perseus was conceived, Perseus. And when we read the Greek translations of Perseus, he fought that one sea monster, right? With many heads, which was created again by Enki. Enki was the reason why all these abominations existed during ancient times.
Well, you had mentioned in one of your videos that there's been women disappearing.
It's not
physically disappearing from Earth. What's happening? Are people reporting this, and where is this happening?
Okay, it's not necessarily just women, anybody. It's actually women that claim to be galactic emissaries for the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds. And these are women who are willing, who are actually conceding to the abductions by Enki. They're developing personal relationships with Enki, but they're also being deceived by Enki. They're doing it under the guise that Enki is restoring the Holy Grail genetic blueprint, which is supposed to, bring the cures to all diseases on Earth, which is a lie. So they have been, deceived through his energetic charm and manipulation, and have been taking aboard his mothership. He has two motherships. One is a spherical, metallic, alloyed looking, and the other one is a bronze, spherical, metallic looking ship. So he's taking these women who are volunteering to go, to be part of his mothership, so that he could actually use their genetics to infiltrate the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds. And what I mean by that is that the piloting and security systems and the navigation systems of the Galactic Federation fleets could only be accessed through galactic human source codings. So in other words, when you put your hand on the panel, you could actually turn on the entire ship. But no Draco, no Zeta, or no negative regressive have access to that, because they don't have the galactic genetic blueprint. So what Enki's been doing is he's been extracting Pleiadian and galactic DNA from these volunteered women in order to infiltrate the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds. But the Council of the Guardian Alliance, who oversees beyond the Galactic Federation, has stopped him from doing so. So what's happening now is that he's not fully achieving his attempt, his endeavor to infiltrate the Galactic Federation and bring the galaxy back to his control. But at the same time, he's also using the genetics to create another abomination by admixing it with advanced AI, Draco, insectoid. And so he's creating a different version of Human 3.0. He calls it the Draco Anunnaki drone cyborg soldier. And that is another abomination that he's developing right now. But from what I understand is that that reality is not going to be an issue until 1,000 years from now. So we are going to still witness and experience the solar flash, where all evil is going to be eliminated. And we're going to have 1,000 years of peace. But unfortunately, at the end of 1,000 years of peace, we're going to have to face that abomination. But we do win that war, because at that point we're using our dormant DNA, and we're the most powerful beings in the multiverse as we step into our power in our role.
Somebody was asking, what can women do to protect themselves in this type of environment?
Well, the best thing to do is invoke the protection of Michael every morning, ground yourselves, and see yourself enveloped in a sphere of energetic, in a sphere of a bubble, an energetic bubble. And also make sure that you invoke the protection of your guides, your ancestors, and of course, Michael the Archangel. And if you do that every morning upon waking up, there is no way that you're going to, none of these negative entities are going to have access to you.
I love that. Love it. We're getting a lot of questions about this right now, actually. And so we'll dive right into it. Have you heard of this thing about September 24th? There's been a lot of talk about this day being an important day. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, a lot of people have DM'd me about, they want me to make a video about the 24th of this month. But, I looked into it. I asked, the galactics that I work with, and they told me that nothing's going to happen. That's just another day to create, mass fear. So no red flags, if anything, expect EBS, expect the changeover into the new financial system, which is a good thing for humanity, if anything were to happen. But as far as like a red flag or, something like what they call a Carrington event, a major catastrophe, that's not going to happen. I could assure you.
Okay. One thing I found has been really powerful, they've even done studies on this, is the power of group meditation and how that can actually shift things, even like lower the crime rate in certain areas and things like that. So I thought it would be really interesting, since we have over 300 people on this live, to just, as a group, we're going to just do it really, really short, maybe about 15 seconds. But let's just take a moment to close our eyes and use the power of our minds and our imagination to shift timelines. Okay, so we're going to see ourselves where we are now. We're going to release all of that fear. Again, do this as a group, everybody. We're going to release all this fear. Release it from your heart. Nothing can hurt you. Nothing can harm you. You are a divine being who is infinite and eternal. Right? And let's take about 10 to 15 seconds to just put tons of love in the air, love into the area that you're in, and let's shift and jump timelines to a place and time where none of that can be possible or true. All right? Let's go. Amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. Let's send out love to the world, and let's get right back into this interview.
I think if anything were to happen on the 24th, we just averted it by even 300 people collectively putting their focus together and, making sure that nothing happens.
Absolutely.
I think we averted it, yeah.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And I think that's what we can do. We literally just jump into a different timeline with the power of our mind. We are really gods and goddesses. Okay. So the other question I wanted to ask you, I've always been curious about this because, you study a lot of things that are up in the sky and, other dimensional, right? That, like, let's say if somebody is more of like a, really just locked into the world of the 3D and they're, typical, need to see physical evidence scientist people. What out of everything you've learned about galactic life, what's one of the things that's the most practical piece for you?
So that's what I do now. With all this understanding that I have, all this knowledge, I live accordingly. I live like extraterrestrials live. They don't worry about time. They don't get up in the morning and think, what am I going to do today? They just stay centered and they live in the now. And they just go with the flow and they are directed by energy. So they know where they need to go and they know what to do because of that, internal guidance system. So I live like a multidimensional being now. I don't live like an earth human anymore.
Well, what's interesting, I read a book recently about near-death experiences that was written by a doctor, and then another one about near-death experiences written by a scientist. And, what they found interesting was that in the studies that they've done, these controlled research studies, people who experienced near-death experiences, so people who became aware of what was on the other side and had that expanded view, not only them, but people who heard about near-death experience, who heard about their friend's experience, they have all had an increase in positive mental health, right? Because it's like when you really realize what's going on behind all of this, if you lift the veil of reality and you look underneath, it's like, oh, it's amazing, right? And so I think, you know, having that information, it definitely, like you said, it fills you every day with gratitude. And that's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. You know, speaking of that, you know, we're just going to quickly ask you on this one, you know, what do you think happens after we die? Is it the end? You know, does our consciousness go somewhere else? Do we reincarnate? What are your thoughts on that?
Death is only a transition, you know, depending on whether you learned your lessons or not in this temporal reality. You either come back or you move on to the next level. And the next level could be the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension. So as long as you are mastering your current reality, you know, if you are, how can I say it? If you are reaching higher levels of consciousness while you're in embodiment, then you move on to a higher dimension, because the next stage of your incarnation is equally determined by where you are in your consciousness right before death. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But also to understand is the samsara cycle of death and rebirth has been eliminated. You know, this is the last incarnation. What we're going to be experiencing now, my friend, is a transformation of the species once the genetic mutation is complete, which is almost there. You know, many of us are experiencing heightened clairvoyance. Our psychic abilities are enhancing. We're seeing prophetic visions. Some of us are having dreams of flying and teleporting and having these amazing telekinetic abilities. That's all part of the transformation, because it's going to be a time where our dreams and wake reality are just going to merge. So what we're actually doing in our dreams right now with these abilities and these superpowers is what's actually going to happen when we are, you know, transformed into fifth dimensional galactic humans.
Now, I know a lot of people are probably very excited about the potential for this reality, that they're thinking a lot about this. And I know a lot of people are like, well, let's speed it up. How do we get there? What are some things that people can do to assist and participate in the anchoring of these new energies on Earth?
Be an example. You know, always be the better person. Live from your heart. Radiate love. Live in the now, and be of service to others. Because once you are deeply rooted in those principles, well, you know, at that point you just kind of become a beacon of light for everyone else. And it's how can I say it? It's contagious, you know, it's contagious. Your light could actually turn on the light of others as you interact with new and new people daily. And I've been told by people that there's something about my energy where they were depressed, something happened that day, and all of a sudden they came in contact with me and they said they just felt like a lift of, like they had nothing to worry about. And I didn't even say a word to them. It's just by them being in my presence. So that's how powerful our vibration is. Our vibration could literally transform people who are in a negative funk and uplift them, you know, right away.
Now, when you envision like this new Earth, do you see people kind of like going back to like a traditional sort of like homesteading, like off the grid type of situation, where they're away from big tech and just living in harmony with nature? Or do you see it kind of like more like similar to what we have now, but just new technologies? You know, what does the infrastructure look like in that way?
It's going to be both. You know, it's going to be a beautiful Earth where all the natural resources in the ecosystem is going to be fully regenerated and fully restored. So we're going to be, you know, living off of natural resources. At the same time, we're going to be using a different form of technology that is not, that is not dangerous to the planet or to the species. So we're going to be living in a totally different Earth. You know, our houses are going to be different. Our transportation systems are going to be different. Everything's going to change, Bo.
When I think of it, I see this like merging where like human beings come to this recognition that our planet itself is a living being, and we start to live in harmony with it. And I see all the technology being in harmony with the Earth. Exactly.
That's how extraterrestrial technology works. It is in harmony. It is a living, you know, technology, and not necessarily through silicone-based, you know, AI genetics, but through living crystals and stones and actual, you know, living elements from the planets. And that's how we originated in Lyra, by the way. The original Lyrans didn't have any external technology. They didn't have roads and highways. Do you know how they built their beautiful, glorious, clean civilization? by bending nature with their mind and consciousness. They had this amazing symbiotic relationship with their ecosystem and environment. It was such a beautiful paradise. And that's what they called the original Garden of Eden. So we're going to be heading there again, my friend. And that's how fifth dimensional existence is. That's
awesome. I got another quick question, but before I do, I want to let you guys know too, something really cool that happened recently. A group of people, a bunch of people who do homesteading and off-gridding all came together. There's about 140 courses right now on how to live off-grid and how to have your own homestead. It's $6,000 worth of courses into one bundle, but they're charging only $50 for it. So you can get all this training for $50 US, and it's just wild. So the deal's only on for maybe like 5 days. If you guys want to check it out, link in my bio. So my next question for you was, you talk a lot about this big solar flash. Is there anything is there any value in smaller solar flares that are happening regularly? And do we get DNA upgrades? Are there like a higher level of consciousness that comes with it?
Yes, there is. As the CMEs get stronger, we become more codons activate, more strands of DNA come online. So some of us already have 3 or 5 strands already fully active. We're no longer using 2 strands like we did 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. And that explains, instant regeneration like me at the gym. Sometimes I hurt myself and I don't feel the pain anymore. Like a few years ago, I used to drop weights on my foot and I would feel that, right? I'd bruise for weeks. And now it's like it hits me, but I don't feel the pain anymore and there's no bruising. So that's how I know that my body's changing. So yeah, even these smaller CMEs are definitely upgrading us, because it has to happen in increments before that final release, before that great solar flash takes place, so that our bodies could, actually have the capacity to house all that radiation of photonic light energy and then transform us at a cellular level into new physical angels, as I call them. That's what we're going to be, physical angels.
Awesome. You had recently released a course. I checked it on your website, and man, there was a whole bunch of stuff there. What are people expecting to learn in the course that you're doing?
All my 25 years of research and downloads packed into 6 hours, 2 hours a week, where I answer questions and I interact with people, live and in real time. You get to know a lot of things. We go into detailed about everything. Teach people my Kriya yoga technique so that they can begin to access their own Akashic records and galactic self and get their own downloads and stuff. So I teach people to advanced methods, meditation methods. So
So you're there live in this course.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're like interacting, like just the way me and you are talking, except anyone who takes my course could ask me as many questions as they want. And, I'm like talking to them in real time.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
But the only thing is it's my course is booked all the way to the end of the year. We just opened up the January class. So if you guys want to, sign up, I would sign up now, because I would say a week or 2 from now, the January class would probably be booked as well.
That's wild, man. You're already fast, eh? It's interesting. When you start following your path, your purpose, and your truth, things just start to align, and you realize how valuable that is. I actually have an Akashic Records reading booked on the 27th that I booked 3 months ago, because the guy that did it was so good. He's the guy that worked with Bob Proctor. He's so good that he's booked like 3 months in advance. So
wow.
6 months in advance, but he got me in. So I feel like that's exactly what's going on right now with your course, is that people are realizing that you not just have the knowledge and information in a way that you can actually articulate it, but you are going to physically be there and show up. So I think that's something that's really valuable for, by the way, 333 viewers. Anyways, but that you're going to show up and really add that value for people. So that's pretty cool. And also, if you guys haven't checked out Ismael's book, it's called Our Cosmic Origin. I have the copy here. I keep this in the spiritual section of my books. It's right beside Simulacra and Simulation, the Matrix-inspired movie. You know, I keep it beside the Bible and the Quran that I, you know, keep in my house too. You know, just all the deep levels of wisdom I keep there, and this is one of the books that I consider one of those books. So if you guys haven't checked it out, you can go on Amazon and get his book, Our Cosmic Origin. And where do people go to see your course? What's the website for that?
It's under the mysticarts.org, the mysticarts.org.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So in that website, my class is the Starseed Cosmology course.
And there's some other courses there too, right? Like with other.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have other colleagues that teach like tarot cards, you know, astrology, twin flame. They have a twin flame course. They have a course in like elemental magic. You know, different metaphysical studies that you know, other people might have interest in.
So it's the mysticarts.org.
.org. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And so I have a fun little game that I want to surprise you with as well. But before I do we have any questions? Actually, we do have questions.
Okay.
So I'm just going to quickly ask you a couple questions, and then we're going to end with a fun game I think that people are going to enjoy. So question number one is, how will the star seeds be activated?
That's a very good question. When the solar flash takes place, that's when they're going to be activated. But it's already happening in increments. So, you know, if you're experiencing, there's different symptoms, a variety of symptoms that you could actually be experiencing at this point. You know, body aches, headaches, feeling like lethargic during the day, or waking up in the middle of the night, not being able to sleep for a few hours because your brain is racing. All that has to do with the different, you know, the changes that are taking place at a cellular molecular level in your body. So that's how the changes are going to happen. It's going to be when the sun, see, the sun is constantly communicating with our DNA. Okay, they're too intelligent. Our DNA is intelligent, right? It's its own entity, right? At the cellular level of reality, trillions of our cells are all active and they're all intelligent. It's communicating with the sun, and so that's how the shift is going to take place. When the sun releases the final flash, it's going to activate new codons by giving it a new set rules of instructions, kind of like a new genetic blueprint. And then so that's how our other strands are going to come online, and our pituitary gland is just going to go from the size of a pea to the size of a quarter. Our pineal gland, I'm sorry, and then our pituitary gland is also going to go from the size of a pea to the size of a quarter. And then when that happens, the other 90% of our brain is just going to start working, and our right brain with our left hemisphere are going to integrate, and we're going to be using the full deck.
Amazing. Somebody says here, was Noah's Ark a spaceship?
I'm starting to think so. Yes, actually, the more I look into that intuitively and research, by researching it, the more I'm starting to understand that the galactics have always been involved. Yeah. So the reason the Bible called it a boat or an ark was because, you know, the people of those days didn't really understand the extraterrestrial connection. They didn't even believe that we were alone. You know, they believed that we were alone in the universe. They didn't know that we had help or assistance from other worlds. But I do believe that it was a spaceship.
Someone also says, someone says, why don't the advanced ETs just take Enki out?
It's a very good question, but the thing is that they're not powerful enough to take him out. The only species powerful enough to take Enki out and his new abomination army of Draco Anunnaki genetic cyborgs is us. We are the only ones that could take him out. But again, we're not going to have to deal with that for 1,000 years, because when the solar flash takes place, all that stuff is going to shift into a different timeline. So we're going to go in, it's almost like the Earth is going to split, but not just the Earth, the entire galaxy. You know, the entire galaxy is going to ascend in a positive timeline, and everything negative that is currently plaguing our galaxy is going to go into a different timeline. But then at the end of the millennium, we're going to clash again for one final battle against the AI cyborg, you know, Antichrist, Luciferian, whatever you want to call it.
Amazing. So again, guys, if you want to, there's so many questions coming in here. Obviously, if you guys really want to like understand the way that Ismael sees the world, there's two ways to do it. One, you can get his book. You go to Amazon, just type in Our Cosmic Origin. It's under Ismael Perez, and you'll find it right there. This is what it looks like. I got my copy here. Okay, you can do that, and you can check out mysticarts.org. And check out his course there. He's going to be actually, if you want to get these questions answered, you can have a conversation with him like I am right now. That type of closeness where you can really upgrade your knowledge on this stuff and get the mentorship along the way, the hands-on personalized mentorship. The other thing I want to mention too, guys, if you're just tuning in, a bunch of different creators put together 140 courses on how to live off-grid and how to get your own homestead. So if you want to get away from the big tech monopoly and get into more of a free, independent, in harmony mindset or lifestyle, make sure you the link in my bio, and you'll be able to get the 140 courses, which is $6,000 worth of courses for only $50. People keep saying, "What's the catch? Why $50?" It's because it's only available for like 5 days. It might even be 4 days at this point because its time is running out. So make sure you click that, get the bundle now while you can, and you'll be able to have it for a lifetime. So here's the game I wanted to play with you guys, and I hope this is going to be valuable to everybody, and I hope you appreciate this too, Ismael. What I would like you guys to do, because I think it's so important that at this time that we unite, that we come together and we build communities of like-minded people. And so what I recommend is that everyone after this live, what I want you to do is I want you to go to Ismael's page, okay? And I want you to go to his last post. And I want you to just comment Starseed in big capital letters. And everybody, and what I want you to do is once you've commented that, go through the comments and start talking and sending DMs and communicating with the people that also said Starseed. And just start meeting each other, right? Sometimes we're all over the world. We're spread apart so that we can do our job as individuals in, across different areas, but it's still important that we connect. So go to his page and hit Starseed in big capital letters on his last post and just go make some friends, guys. And I hope that helps. So again, guys, our Cosmic Origin, Ismael Perez, brother, as always, it's so fascinating to talk to you. You blow my mind every time. I'm always learning something new. And, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm really grateful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Bo. It's always good to be here with you again.
All right, brother. Cheers. Have a good night.
You too. Bye, everyone.